Disclaimer: major spoilers to Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I use the term Asian to describe East and Southeast Asian queerness. I am not too sure if the queerness represented in the movie also applies to other Asian cultures, but do please tell me if it is similar. Now, let's proceed. Now, I am not a movie critic or anything. I am just a 16-year-old that enjoys watching movies, especially if they relate to me in a way. Now, I've been crumbling under academic pressure and my body finally gave up on me when the pandemic hit. A serious burnout that I'm still struggling to fix to this day. The Philippines has this extreme academic competition culture and it was tearing me apart, and I was only 14. Even though it was online classes, the subjects stretched out to fill my day and I was miserable. I felt that I didn't have any control of my life and everything is predestined, like that cycle we hear a lot. Eat, sleep, work, and die. I felt my life was gonna be like that, and I was so scared that I did a lot of reckless things to feel like I was in control again. One of those reckless things I did was to come out to my family as bisexual. I'm gay, by the way, just comp head and stuff, though bisexuality is always valid. It's not just a phase for the actual bi people there. Anyways, I don't know why I came out. It was an act of impulse. I wasn't even sure if my family was accepting of me. They were Christian, and anyways, we all know that a lot of times they aren't too accepting of the community. But to my surprise, they welcomed me. I was happy. I was finally feeling like I wasn't othered. I have a family that accepted my sexuality, and I wanted to tell everyone. But that was when I had a rude awakening, when I realized not everyone's gonna be accepting. Plus, my family didn't like me to tell anyone yet. Just keep it to myself and them. I didn't listen, of course, and my friends knew about it first anyways. Though it did make me feel like that they were a bit ashamed that they had a gay child, or they were trying their best to protect me in a not so safe environment, and if so, thank you, but they should have let me be me and instead help defend who I really am instead of hiding and sheltering me, because it really does look like you aren't all that accepting anyways. Now, that feeling of being hidden away by your family because they aren't ready for who you really are is perfectly portrayed in the recent 2022 movie of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yes, we're finally in the part where I talk about the movie after hearing my 385 life story. Now, Everything Everywhere, which I will call from now on because the title is long, can be described in a lot of ways. A crazy multiverse sci-fi movie, a critique of nihilism, a family comedy drama that talks about intergenerational trauma, and the fantasy of a parent actually apologizing. Whatever you want it to be, I still cried like crazy, with snot running down my nose and an aching stomach in my first watch and the rewatch. Mostly because I related to Joy. Joy is the character of the main character, Evelyn. She's portrayed as rebellious, but in reality, she has conflicting ideas with her a bit of a socially conservative mother, Evelyn, and she just wants to be heard for once, for her mother to truly accept her as a lesbian, which was revealed early in the movie when she kisses her girlfriend, Becky. Now, we start off with a scene where Joy tries to introduce Becky as her girlfriend to her gonggong, her grandfather, but struggles to translate the word girlfriend to Chinese. And this is where her mother interrupts the conversation and instead introduces Becky as only a friend of Joy. Joy, who is obviously upset, leaves to go out with her girlfriend, with Evelyn defending her actions with the excuse of he's just in a different generation. But Just before they leave, Evelyn runs out to say one more thing to her, and it's framed as if she's about to apologize, and it showed that Joy really wanted an apology. As we wait for that apology and see Joy's expectant but subtle facial expressions, it doesn't happen. In the end, she only tells Joy to eat less because she was getting fat, and Joy quickly gets disappointed. She shows her disappointment by not responding to Evelyn, with her crying in the car as she gets driven away. Then we pan back to see Evelyn's look, a look of reluctance but also sadness, with the fact that she was losing her daughter in an all too familiar scene. She fears her daughter will do the same mistakes as she did, that she will lose Joy because she chose to be the one who she loves the most, then regret it because things didn't turn out how they wanted it to be. But in reality, Evelyn only projects her current situation with homophobia. Right now, she is unhappy with her husband, Raymond, and is currently facing tax problems that she needs to fix in a certain and looming deadline. She is so unhappy to the point that she's thinking about divorce and is even apologetic to her neglectful father, Gong Gong, who was against Evelyn and Raymond's marriage. In a lot of Asian cultures, blood always reflects everyone in the family, especially your child. Your child reflects who you are as a person, and if their child doesn't turn out to be perfect, good education, good job, late relationships, and being straight, then you have failed as a parent. So both parties, especially the child, face extreme pressure of being the perfect person, and this is all too relatable to me, and I'm sure a lot of Asians out there, whether queer or not. But Evelyn isn't one-dimensional, as like her daughter. There are no true villains in this story, just real people with their unresolved issues surrounding intergenerational trauma. Evelyn has this reluctant a want to apologize, but is too afraid to do so. If she accepts Joy, then she has to accept her failure. As the story progresses, she does try to fix this, not without its problems though. Once Evelyn has seen all the perspectives her life could have took, she succumbs to a nihilist approach, that nothing matters at this point in her life if the one thing that she could have been doesn't exist in the first place. So, in one of the universes, she doesn't sort out her tax problem, she acts out in a rage, and she ultimately signs the divorce papers. Nothing mattered to her anyways, not even her relationship to Joy and Waymond. Though in the end, she realizes she was wrong. These lives do not suit her at all, and she loves Waymond and Joy, but her own unresolved issues are causing her to lose them. These issues are also making Joy think the same, hence the personification of Joy's negative thoughts with her alpha-verse version, Jobu Tupaki. Let's rewind and focus on this mother-daughter relationship that takes place during all the chaos. We see at first Evelyn fighting against Jobu, thinking that she's the reason why her daughter isn't perfect, the reason why Joy is and the movie does frame Jobu as the antagonist at first, a villain that wants to destroy everything across everywhere, but in the end only seeks for her own self-destruction. Now, take this with a grain of salt, but I see this want of self-destruction as another metaphor for intergenerational trauma. With the endless cycle of trauma being passed down by generations, Joy/Jobu's solution is her own self-destruction. She thinks that the only way to fix this was to be that disappointment of her family and embrace it as a whole, even if it does hurt herself and her family along the way, because what does it matter if her family doesn't accept her anyways? Her family, especially her mom, always wanted her to be a specific something, all her life up until her late teens, she didn't have the control of who she really wants to be. And thus, just like how I mentioned earlier in my own life story, she tries to self-destruct in order to regain that feeling of control again. Why be the one to try to fix this when you can just easily destroy it and forget it and never look back at it again? Through the countless of awesome and awkward fight scenes, Evelyn finally realizes that fighting her daughter is futile. She won't make anything better in defeating Jobu because really, Jobu is already part of Joy. Her imperfections, both her real and in the eyes of Evelyn, are imperfections she simply can't fight it out of Joy. So, she finally accepts them and embraces Jobu, even with the understandable reluctance of both parties. And the movie beautifully executes the idea that not everything will be magically fixed because you simply said sorry. There are still countless of wounds left behind where Evelyn didn't accept her, and it'll probably take a while to heal. But finally, truly accepting her queerness is a great start. That's why in the end, Joy screams to be let go. That, okay, fine, you introduced her girlfriend to Gong Gong, but she just can't stand to be with her mother anymore because of all the things she has said and done. Or rather, what she didn't do. And Evelyn accepts that as well. She accepts her mistakes and realizes that it might have been already too late to keep Joy, but that she will cherish the few specks of time that they'll have together. And it's okay. Not all conflicts between people are resolved by nurturing the relationship back and finding common ground. It's also about letting go. So, we see Jobu get sucked into that bagel. That sounds so weird. As some sort of metaphor that she's finally being let go. And it's okay. It's heartbreaking, but it's for the best. Though in the last second, she reaches her hand out from the bagel and she reunites with her mother. Why? Because deep down, almost every queer child's dream, albeit nearly impossible in situations like this, is to be accepted and loved by their family. And Joy will take that chance to mend the wounds and fix the relationship. She always seems to not want to be around with her mother anymore, but her body language and her inner thoughts scream otherwise. She wants to be with her mother, and the first step of healing, acceptance, is finally taking place. So, we do get a happy ending. An ending that's honestly an I don't care. I'll take it. I need it. I need to see someone who's in my situation be happy so I can be happy for them. And sure, letting go would have been a more impactful ending, but who cares, honestly? That ending of them just living their life as normal with the casualness of Becky dropping Joy and her family off in the IRS office, plus a goodbye kiss in the end, is a beautiful ending and maybe fantasy. And I love it. I guess I'll end it with every queer person experience queerness in a different way. But across cultures, sometimes some of that queerness is experienced similarly, but also specifically by these people. Just so happens that everything everywhere almost perfectly describes being queer in an East and Southeast Asian culture, with its more over-collective and slightly socially conservative culture. In the end, queer people only want one thing: to push a more progressive and accepting society, but more specifically, the smaller society between us and our families. A bittersweet fantasy that could eventually happen if their own wounds are healed and they realize that not being perfect is okay. None of us are perfect, and being queer doesn't mean we are imperfect. We are all just human with our own mistakes, just tiny little specks that would make us feel like tinier pieces of crap for each discovery we make. For now, though, let's just all cry and relate and enjoy. Thanks for watching. Have a good day or night.